Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. I hope you're all doing okay today and that you are ready for some more The House in Fata Morgana. So yesterday we finished door 4 and got some pretty big revelations regarding our nature, but also the maid's nature. It has been revealed that we are Michelle, not the white-haired girl, but the white-haired man. And the maid is Giselle. And all we were told in the 4th door was a lie. So now we have opened the 5th door, where we will see what really happened. I am personally very excited to get into this because this part is where this game, The House in Fata Morgana, became not only my favorite game of all time, but also my favorite story of all time. All the first 4 doors are amazing, I love them with all my heart, but everything that comes now until the end of the game is what makes this game truly stand out as a story for me. So I'm very excited to read it with you guys. So yeah, I'm not gonna drag this out for too long because I am excited to get reading. So let's do that. It had been several days since I left the capital, and I could still see it when I closed my eyes. The people lined up on the Grand Pond, awaiting entry, eager to start a new life there, brimming with hope. It was a city people were willing to pay high taxes to live in. If you were a performer, you could get some of those costs shaved down a bit by putting those skills to use. The capital was harsh on those who wanted in, and apathetic about all who left. It was composed of a powerful nobility and clergy, wealthy merchants and bankers, and a large population of poor. And it was the city I had called home for a long time. I didn't know much about where I was heading. It's getting foggy. Looks like it might rain. Maybe we should take a little break. You want to keep going? Oh, all right then. The coachman was frustratingly taciturn. I have never heard that word before. He acted as though he had gotten stuck transporting a prisoner, though that was hardly a stretch. From his point of view, I was nothing more than a criminal. Even at times he would acknowledge I had said anything. He made no effort to hide the scorn in his eyes, to pretend he didn't regret ever taking this job. And I would just fall silent again. The road was gradually getting narrower. We had long since left the paved city roads behind, and were now travelling along a couple worn-down groves in the forest. How did I end up here? Why was I being subjected to this? I was done thinking about it. The more I thought on it, the less fair it seemed. The more I remembered, the worse it hurt. All I could do anymore was close my eyes and weather the storm. Deep within the dense woods, a mansion appeared before us, like the world fading into view after a dream. It didn't seem to be an especially large house, but it had obviously been constructed with a great deal of care, and it was, thankfully, not standing in ruins. This deep in the forest? The carriage came to a stop, and the coachman climbed down, signaling with his chin for me to get out. Thank you, very much. You must be tired after such a long journey. This is the mansion I'm looking for, yes? But the driver didn't even acknowledge me, getting back onto the carriage and setting off into the forest. He seemed to want to get as far away from here as quickly as possible. He could have said something. Oh well. That was about all I could say anyway. Oh well. I couldn't blame anyone for my being here, or for his wanting to get out. I should get going, I guess. Getting a better look at it, the house's windows were, strangely enough, all shuttered. It was probably dark as pitch inside. Does no one live here? But if that's the case, then why was I placed my hand on the front door. Such a big door. What if I couldn't get in? I had no idea what else there was in the area. If the door didn't open, then I would die out here in the forest. I'd come to accept much, but I was not ready to forfeit my life yet. Please open. It's not locked, I guess. The door was heavy, and though it seemed to protest my attempts to enter, it still opened much easier than I was expecting. I was worried over nothing. Looking in, I got the strangest impression that light was being swallowed up into the mansion's depths. Rather than going inside, it felt as though I was about to step outside the boundaries of this world. When I closed the door, it was so dark I couldn't even tell where I was walking. I wonder if the window's open. Though I managed to fumble my way over a window, it was tightly shuttered, and the shutters caked with rust. I was probably not getting it open without a fight. Darn, not a hint of light. I couldn't even see my hand waving in front of my face. It felt as though the floor would fall out from under me, and I would sink into eternal darkness if I didn't watch my step. Fighting back that fear, I slowly walked forward, tracing the wall with my hand. There was a door at the end of a long corridor. I pulled it open, and a wisp of bone-chilling air brushed past me. It was too dark to see anything, but I could feel something different present in this area than the rest of the house. Uneasiness gripped me. Hello? Is anyone there? Please don't tell me it's actually abandoned. I suppose I can't know without looking around a bit more. My voice simply disappeared into the void. No response. As I pushed forward through the freezing air, for a split second, I spotted a shimmer of light. Squinting my eyes, I was able to make out a large window. Unlike the others, it wasn't shuttered. What do we have here? Drapes? I see a little light beyond. My chances were slim, I imagined, but if there was even a slight possibility of getting some light in here, it was worth a shot. So I pulled open the drapes. Also guys, I just must say, this music is so freaking beautiful. I love it. I think this is probably my favorite song from the whole game actually. The next moment, faint but colorful light shone down on me. It was a stained glass window. From beyond the glass, I could hear the subtle pitter-patter of rain. It had finally started, it seemed. The different colors of light blended into a milky white, dim but wondrous. It's so pretty. It looks like an angel. Why would someone cover this up? It's beautiful. With a little more light, it'd be... Please do not touch the drapes. Or the windows. Suddenly I heard a voice, and I could sense someone else in the room. The man's voice was emotionless, neither deep nor high. Before long, he came into view, illuminated by dull orange candlelight. I'm sorry for coming in uninvited, but, I did announce myself. The man stood there, practically blending in with the darkness. Had he been there the whole time? He was staring straight at me. His gaze wavered slightly, but not enough for me to read anything in it. Then again, I could hardly make out any detail at all under the light of a single candle. Is this, your mansion? It is. Thank goodness. I was afraid it was deserted. I suspect you would have preferred if the house were abandoned. Oh, not at all. I would be scared to death staying in this dark mansion all by myself. I'm sorry. No ill will intended. But I do think it could do with some light. That way you could see where you were walking. And I'm sure this room would look splendid illuminated. Not necessary. I make do perfectly well as things are. How can you see when it's so dark? I have an abundance of candles and oil for lamps. I am not in want of means of creating light. It is not your place to criticize my lifestyle. If you need light, you are free to leave. If you are in need of money, help yourself to some of the furniture. There's a village not far from here. Trade it for food, then make your way to a larger town. I am no longer able to freely return to the city. I cannot go back there. Please, don't chase me out. I see. And do you ask this of me, aware of how people refer to this mansion? They say that a witch lives here. Not merely a witch. A cursed witch. If you remain here, you too shall likely suffer your own destruction. Your word for my well-being? Witch or not, my mind is made up. I was sent to this cursed witch mansion to atone for my transgressions back in the city. It didn't matter what lived here, I had no choice. Which will strike you first, I wonder, regret or the curse? You seem to be doing just fine. It's only a tale. The witch is real, very much so. It is not a legend, nor a fairy tale. The witch's name was Morgana. It's me. Also, look at the corner there, over there. Right before this it was covered in roses and now it's ivy, and it tells us that there is a change of perspective. I think that's really cool as well. Yes. That was our first encounter. It was nothing flowery or dramatic. It was, rather, laced with suspicion and wariness. We knew nothing about one another, and I had no interest in changing that. But nonetheless, that was where it all began, where my history with her commenced. Look at her, she's so cute, oh my god. The woman had jade eyes. Open wide, they glimmered like jewels in the light shining through the stained glass window. She seemed to be at loss for words. I wasn't lying per se. The rumors said a witch lived in this house, and I was the only one who filled that criteria. Thus, said rumors could be interpreted to be talking about me. After staring at me dumbfounded for a few moments, the woman suddenly burst into laughter. Oh wow! Here I was thinking you were kind of scary, and it turns out you're actually quite funny. What? I never would have guessed you were someone to tell such a ridiculous joke with a straight face. I wasn't. You don't look at all like a witch. I mean, it's dark and I can't really see. But you seem to me like a rather handsome man. The word witch. The word witch has a broader meaning than just a woman who practices magic. Any unholy person with cursed powers, man or woman, can be considered a witch. I think I get what you're trying to say, but my mental image of a witch is definitely more of a woman. So you're not a witch? To tell you the truth, I didn't know who might be here, which had me rather scared. But I think I can make this work. What do you... It's a pleasure to meet you, Master. Master? I was sent here from your old home. I was an Abigail for your mother, but, well, I might have made a little goof. I froze the moment the word left her mouth. Home. It rattled around in my skull, shaking up terrible memories that almost brought me to my knees. Why, after all these years, were they reaching out to me now? And not even sending someone to bring me back, just sending someone. To what end? For what purpose had they shipped an Abigail out to this remote mansion? What was my mother thinking? Was this another one of her attempts to break my curse? What do you mean you made a little goof? My voice came out weak. I did my best not to let it show on my face. It was a teeny tiny mistake. Nothing you need to concern yourself with. What did Mother say about me? Well, it was actually your father who told me to come here. I never really spoke to your mother much. Father sent you? That made even less sense. Why would he have? Did father even know I was here? No, if he had known, I would have been... Who was this woman? And what was her goal in asking to stay here? Well, there you have it. I'll be here for a while. If you need me for anything, do not hesitate to ask. I'm confident I can handle most everyday tasks. Now, where should I begin? Oh, I know. Are you hungry, master? Food! I can't imagine you eat much, being as skinny as you are. I turned my back on her without responding. No matter what her goal was, she had been sent from that house. There was no way anything good could come of that, and there was no way I could live with someone who had ties to them. I prayed she would take the hint, give up, and leave. Master! And so I kept ignoring her. Master! Master! I ignored. Master! I ignored her. Master, what would you like for supper? Nothing! But failed, spinning back and shouting. Her eyes went wide, and then she gave a sheepish giggle. I glared at her as she fidgeted uncomfortably. Eating is one of the most basic human needs, so if you're hungry, you should really eat. I said I didn't want. What was that sound? Must you ask? That's not a very polite thing to ask a lady, you know. Huh? You know. It was a long trip, and all I had to eat on the road was dried fruit. It felt like I was some kind of animal. So, what I'm trying to say is that I'm hungry. That wasn't the sound of a stomach growling, was it? I thought lightning had struck in the distance. And would like some supper. The kitchen is at the far end of the hall on the first floor. There's food in the cellar. Help yourself to any of it. Thank you so much. I honestly feel like I haven't eaten in days and I'm about to die of starvation. Oh, and I shouldn't need any help finding it. I plan on exploring the house anyway. It's rather exciting, being in a new place. Ugh. Damn it. That did not go as planned. Oh well, she can do as she pleases. I'll have nothing to do with it. Oh, Master! Are you sure you don't? No. Master? Master? What is it now? My name is Giselle. It's a pleasure to meet you. And your name, Oh, Master, you... I actually left the room that time, making my way back to my chambers. At some point, I would seriously have to chase her out, especially considering she had come from that house. But regardless, I was not terribly fond of her. I really love the contrast of how the fourth door began and how this door begins. Like, it's the same beginning, sort of, but it's so different. We see so much about Giselle's personality and also Michel's personality. He's not this stoic, dark, mysterious kind of dude. He's just a huge introvert with a temper, and I love it. He's awful but not a robot this time. Yeah, exactly. He's so rude, but I love him. He's much more like a person this time. I didn't really understand Michel, but that was probably because we were still essentially strangers. Having been sent to the mansion as reparation for my mistakes, I wasn't sure who I might find there, but I was tentatively convinced he wasn't a terrible person. He didn't do anything to me, except stay away. Michel spent most of his time in his chambers, which he had told me to never enter under any circumstances. So we rarely I can't read. So we rarely encountered one another in the halls. For that reason, I made an effort to be kind and cheerful on the sporadic occasions we did cross paths. I figured if I kept up long enough, he would eventually warm up to me. And, as new housemates, being able to enjoy our time together was obviously preferable to the alternative. If I did manage to break the ice, I hoped we would be able to do some talking about the mansion, about him, about me. I just had to keep working at it. Michel didn't need me to take care of him. He handled his own day-to-day needs and activities by himself, and in fact, he didn't ask me for anything. An aristocrat who had no use for his servant. I hadn't met anyone like him before. Alright then. That meant about all I could do was clean. I wasn't sure how his room looked, but the rest of the house was, quite frankly, an absolute disaster. The dust was so heavy it was obvious it hadn't been touched in years. Let's get started. It couldn't be healthy to live in these conditions, so I set out to clean each room in the house one by one. That said, it wasn't going to be an easy task. Not because I was bad at cleaning. In fact, I consider myself quite good at it. But because it was near impossible to find all the dust and grime that needed cleaning under the flickering light of a candle. I can't understand how anyone sane can live in this dark. What's wrong with him? Maybe he's actually a vampire. Oh god, wouldn't that be something? I can see it now, him sneaking out every night to suck the blood of pretty girls. Priceless. Ah! That means I'm in trouble. Look at me, Miss One-Woman Comedy Show here. Yep. If I am able to get him to warm up to me though, maybe that'll give me more room to make some changes. Like opening some windows. No light and no fresh air. No thank you. Anyway, I set the candlestick down, pulled over a chair to stand on, and started wiping down the shelf. The chair's legs seemed to be uneven, as it wobbled slightly beneath me. So many books. I wonder, do they all belong to him? I knew parchment was expensive, so it was rather astonishing seeing this many stacks of it in one place. There were even some books with bulky, extravagantly decorated covers. It does come from an esteemed family. I'd spent enough time at his family's home. It was a constant bustle of servants and guests. The exact opposite of what this mansion was like. Why had he left his home? What had he done to be sent all the way out here, to this remote mansion with a less than savory reputation? Need to be careful not to overstep my bounds. I am a servant now. A servant. But once the thought crossed my mind, I couldn't get it out. I'd always had a bad tendency to chase my curiosities as soon as they struck, pushing to scratch the itch no matter how much my actions annoyed others. I couldn't do that here though. I was simply a servant, and if I got on Michel's bad side, I risked getting thrown out. I wonder what kind of books he's got in here. So I attempted to distract myself. I grabbed one of the books and attempted to pull it out. What? But the strings binding the parchment must have got entangled at the back. Whoa! Because the books on either side tilted back with it. Ah! And then the entire row came crashing down on top of me. Ow! Oh, for cripe's sake! I had fallen off the chair, and a downpour of books was still coming down on me. A mountain of dust with it. Seriously? What are you doing? What? Suddenly, Michelle was there, looking down on me from a little ways away. There was, as usual, not much I could read from his expression, but I could hear a vague trace of exasperation in his voice. I was doing some cleaning and... Impressive work. I'm usually better than this. It's just so dark. Mistakes should be expected. I really think we should open some windows, Master. Get some light, some air flowing through here. I never asked you to clean anything. You did this entirely yourself. But there's so much dust! It can't be good for you. I am perfectly healthy. I don't see the problem. Had he even seen himself? No way someone that skinny was perfectly healthy. You look like you have something to say. He can make out my face in this darkness. Oh, you know. I wanted to be useful, and cleaning is about all I can do here, so, you know. I was sensing something else, but alright. He let out a sigh, stepped over toward the pile of books, and then reached his hand down for me. Ah! I suddenly felt a pang of embarrassment about the fact that I was still splayed out on the floor, but I raised my hand up to take his, only for him to pick up a book instead. You could at least help me up! You have legs, he said, casually returning the book to the top shelf. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he was a terrible person. So, Master, are all these books yours? Giselle asked, not a trace of remorse visible on her face, despite having made a mess of the room she was supposedly trying to clean. I gave a curt nod. Really? That's impressive. Must have been hard work getting them all in here, huh? There's got to be 100 books here. You'd fit a whole carriage at least. It's like you got your own personal library. She had been pouting only a few moments earlier, but the smile was back in short order. Her jade eyes were like little balls of curiosity, glittering in the faint candlelight. I was not particularly fond of overly expressive, rather overly curious women. Did they not care that they trampled uninvited into other people's personal spaces? Or were they not even aware that their actions were invasive? I averted my gaze from hers. I receive one roughly every month. Ah, I see. Wait. She turned back toward the shelf. I presume she understood the implications of what I had just said. Of the fact that there were nearly 100 tomes here, and I received only one a month. Huh. Giselle fell silent. I couldn't blame her if she thought my circumstances, or my family, or my life bizarre. But I didn't care what she thought of me. In fact, it was my advantage for her to be uncomfortable. I just needed her to stay quiet and keep her nose out of my business. There's more than I thought. I said not to her, but to myself. I had no reason to count the passage of time anymore. Only the book served as a record of how long I had been here. 121! What? There are 121 books. 10 years and 1 month. You were counting? I thought she had just sheepishly gone quiet. What an inscrutable woman. You've been here in the mansion for that long? All by yourself? The truth was, there had been times when I wasn't alone, but Giselle had no need to know that. You already know the answer. A look of pity formed in Giselle's eyes. Enough. I never asked for her sympathy. I am here by choice. You mean you weren't banished here? No restraint, this woman. No. I came here on my own volition. I didn't care enough to elaborate, though. Picking another book off the floor, I brushed the dust off its cover. It was a gaudily decorated tome. That's a very fancy book, isn't it? But apparently Giselle was unable to take a hint. What's it about? I let out a sigh and opened to no page in particular, sticking the book out toward her. She was a servant, and a woman. There was no way she could read. Let's see here. This land is hardly suitable for cultivation. It can only produce over-sour grapes. I would probably get more out of it if I tore down the fields and made it into a market. Sounds like a lord's diary. You can read? I was caught slightly off guard. It was rare for a noble woman to be able to read and write, let alone a servant. Was she truly what she claimed to be? I had someone teach me. So, is this book any interesting? It's dull, worthless tripe. I can't imagine why anyone thought it was worth binding. Tough crowd. But it's not very often you get to see a lord's diary. I'm rather curious what kinds of things he griped about. Lord or king, what value was there in another's grumbling? There was no knowledge contained within that book. Just emotions. Unsightly scribbles. And there was nothing more exhausting in this world than being emotional. If you want to read it, be my guest. That wasn't my intention, but alright. Once I got the whole mansion cleaned, I'll read it. I told you, you don't have to clean. Oh, I got an idea, Master. If you're interested, maybe we could read it together. Did you hear a word I just said? It's dull, worthless tripe. Still, you might see it differently if you read it with someone else. And I'm sure there are some books here you would enjoy, Master. You're wasting your time. That's actually quite true. I just recently started doing like buddy reads with Dudor and also Fia, my mods in the chat. It's very fun to read books together, actually, to talk about them and all that. It's a very different kind of reading because you need to be more what's it called? God, I can't think of words. Open to details and such. And also talking about it, you can notice details from the others that you didn't notice yourself. So it's very fun. The suspicion and the restraint budding between us was trite and insignificant at that point. She was still smiling, after all. If I had been able to maintain that distance, then perhaps I wouldn't have ended up hurting her. It had been little under 2 weeks since I had moved in with Michelle. Agreed, it's usually enough if one person is observant and the others can tag along. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, so yeah, I have noticed a lot of details that I have missed because I've been too tired when I have read the book or something that the others have noticed, and yeah, so it's very fun and a different way to read. It had been little under 2 weeks since I had moved in with Michelle. Though we lived in the same house, we rarely saw each other. On our lucky days, I wouldn't see him at all. I wasn't sure if he ate in his room, or our schedules were simply misaligned, but we never had any meals together. Perhaps he was deliberately avoiding me. That has to be it. I know servant and master don't usually eat at the same table, but even so, he could be a little less obvious about it. Am I really that much of a nuisance? I'm not doing anything inappropriate, am I? I'm being pleasant and sociable, aren't I? I haven't given him any reason to not like me, I think. I hope. He had never been very enthusiastic about my staying here, but I hadn't been given a choice. I had been sent here by his family. Besides... No, out with the negative thoughts. Gotta stay positive. Yeah, he hasn't tried to chase me out yet. I just haven't broken the ice. I had to stay positive, optimistic, happy thoughts, and be myself. As long as I kept working at it, with enough time, Michelle would surely come around and not be so distant. I've got a goal, so let's get to work. First I make supper, then I ask him to have it with me. Gotta be proactive when it comes to the reclusive types. Alright, here goes. Or here would go. But we're almost out of supplies. Well, so much for that. The cellar was here. The cellar was where the non-perishable food was stored. Dried foods, smoked meats, cheeses, and all small scattering of root vegetables. Looking at this Sorry. Sometimes it's very hard to read. Yeah. Looking at this makes me feel like a soldier holding down a castle's fortifications. Had Michelle really gone 10 years on nothing but this? I would have raised the white flag long ago. He said it hadn't left the mansion at all in those 10 years. I assume he at least goes out to get supplies, right? Running out of food is kind of a life or death matter. I can't believe he hasn't set foot outside even once in... What are you babbling on about? Ah! Oh no, he overheard me. I assumed you were talking to someone. Huh? Does anyone else live here, master? I haven't seen anyone. It's just the two of us. Alive, anyway. You mean they are ghosts? Something of the sort. There you go again with the jokes. I'm not a child. You're not going to trick me like that. There are adults who believe in such things. I suppose. But I don't really believe in ghosts or demons or curses or any of that. The church just tries to convince people they're real so they can squeeze more money out of them. Am I going to have to turn you over to the church, you blasphemer? No. I pray every day, honest. I don't particularly care either way. I'm returning to my chambers. What? Already? You didn't, come down for food? I only came down because I heard voices. A moment, please, just wait a second. What? Our stores are almost empty. What do you normally do when you need more food? I'll happily accompany you on a trip to the market. Already? That was fast. There are two of us. I really don't eat that much, do I? In the dim light, it was difficult to make out Michelle's expression, but I thought I could see a tinge of annoyance on his face. Hold your ground, Giselle. You said you wanted to get closer to him. Ah, is that a parsnip? Michelle was holding a tangled ball of roots. The reason I asked was because the parsnip looked like it was on the verge of total decomposition. See, there's still food. He then handed it to me. Wait! You want to eat that? It's clearly seen better days. You're going to get sick. Or are you telling me you can survive on rotten vegetables? Of course I want to eat it. I just figured you were hardy enough to survive. What do you think I am? No, he's definitely a jerk. Or that the resulting diarrhea might reduce your appetite. You're kidding, right? You can't be serious. Anyway, we should bury that outside. Then we can go purchase fresh supplies. I told you, I don't go outside. Then how do you... Huh? A visitor? Who could it be? Perfect timing. You're a servant. Make yourself useful and go retrieve the package. If it's not a delivery but a wanderer, chase them off. What? Package? Master? Hold on a second. What are you talking about? He's gone. What kind of delivery is he expecting? Michel stood there, unmoving, veiled in shadow. He glanced over at me, then threw his gaze to the front door. At his command, I raised the bar, pulling open the door. After nearly 2 weeks inside, the light from the setting sun almost blinded me. The world went white, my head pounding. After a few moments of intense blinking, my eyes acclimated themselves to the evening sunlight. There was no one outside. Only a crate easily large enough to fit a child. Is this the package? Master? I turned back to face Michel, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Though it seemed more like he was avoiding looking at the light than at me. It's starting to seem more and more like a vampire. Not that I believe in vampires, of course. Regardless, I pray there's nothing bad in here. That's heavy. Master, could I get some help? Gee, thanks. I am a servant, admittedly, but this is a lot to ask of just one girl. A little help would sure be nice. Once it's inside, close and bar the door. He said dispassionately, his head still turned toward the darkness. As you wish, master. Once the door was shut, I found myself sucked back into a world of darkness. It hadn't even been 2 weeks, but the lack of light was beginning to become my normal. The outside world coming further and further away. Being holed up in here is definitely not good for me. I should go for a walk sometime. Maybe plant some flowers or vegetables. Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe I can grow that old tangle of roots into some fresh parsnip. What else do we have to plant? It'd be great if there were some flower seeds. What are you doing? Open the box, now. As you wish, master. Oh, there's food inside. In the box was a burlap sack filled with berries, root vegetables and smoked meats, as well as an assortment of bread, fruits and wine. Aside from the fruit and bread, everything else was the same as what Michel kept in the cellar. Ah! And buried beneath the burlap sack was a single book. 1 book a month. He really hasn't gone outside in 10 years. It appears you have begun to grasp the situation. Yeah. But why? This was delivered by someone from your house, master, wasn't it? A servant, I assume. Why would it leave without saying anything? No one wants to talk to a cursed man. In the past, they would occasionally check in on me, but that hasn't happened recently. They think you're cursed? Ah, right. You don't believe in curses. Then come up with your own explanation. An excuse for them to want to stay away from me. That, for example, I killed someone. Or maybe that I'm insane. I couldn't. Regardless, I am not normal. Bring the food down to the cellar. The book to the library. You are, of course, free to refuse and run back off into the woods. I'll do it. Alright. Then you take care of that. Hey, What is it? I just noticed there's something else in here. It's wrapped in cloth. What could it be? Oh, a painting! For you to hang up somewhere in the house, I presume. It's so dark I can't see it very well, but I'm sure it's... Don't touch that! What? Michel, who had kept his distance from me up until that point, suddenly marched over and ripped the painting from my grasp. Master? His face was twisted into a look I had never seen him make before. Was it indignation, disgust, hatred, panic? I couldn't tell, but it was more than enough negative pressure to cause me to flinch back. Is that painting perhaps, something important? A landscape painting, he muttered under his breath, the tension melting away from his face. I was left looking at his usual blank, impenetrable expression. But his eyes were still fixated on the picture, staring at it unblinkingly. Why a landscape painting? Some kind of passive-aggressive message? It's not of anywhere nearby. Did they travel somewhere? Well, it's not of that girl, so that's an improvement. Master? Oh, you're still here? Still here? Of course I'm still here. Who do you think you asked to take care of the package? What's with you? Just running over and snatching the painting from me? You scared me. Could you maybe explain yourself? What's so special about that painting? I don't believe that's any of your business. None of my... Of course it is! You ripped it out of my hands like I was some kind of thief. I have a right to know what that was all about. And maybe an apology while you're at it. You told me to open a box, so I did. Then all of a sudden you're angry. We are not equals. Do not mistake yourself for my friend. You have a right to know. You have no such thing. You don't have to be rude. I'll say it again. Leave it if you don't like it here. I never asked for you to be here. That was your wish. My wish? Are you out of your mind? I never asked for this. I never wished for it. Who in their right mind would want to be sent to some house in the middle of nowhere? Who would ever want to go through that? No, calm down, Giselle. You can't get angry. You're right. That is what I wanted. But I never wanted to make you mad, or for us to argue like this. I just wanted to get to know you better, to get closer to you. I mean, it would make things smoother for the both of us. It would make living together more enjoyable for us. Listen carefully. This is very important for you to understand. Do not try to involve yourself with me. Do not go probing around for information. And if you can't do that, leave. I completely shut out. The glare he was giving me and the standoffish aura he was emanating were reflected in his tone of voice. Why? Why did he try to push me away like that? It seemed Giselle really didn't know much about me. Despite being sent here from my house, she was unaware of the monthly deliveries, as well as the reason why I lived in the mansion all by myself. Why, though, would he not have told her anything? Why had she been sent here left completely in the dark? Giselle looked up at me, fear and bewilderment in her eyes, though I thought I could see a glint of suspicion beneath it all. Like her true feelings were bubbling to the surface. Everyone had darkness in them they kept hidden. No one was exactly who they appeared to be. She was undoubtedly thinking, I'm not here because I want to be. I knew from the moment I first saw her bubbly, sweet affect was all of it. I knew from the moment I first saw her that her bubbly, sweet affect was all a facade. Michelle is allergic to fun? Yes, he is, definitely. But he has reasons to be this way. We are not told that yet, obviously, of course, but he's not just an ass for the sake of being an ass. Just as with Jacopo, he has his reasons. So... Had she thought I was dense enough to not realize? She was no different than anyone else. What I didn't understand, though, was why she refused to leave no matter how hard I pushed. What was she hiding beneath that innocent-looking face? What was she thinking? What did she carry on her shoulders? Everyone is hiding something, deceiving those around them. I had to figure out what she really was. May I ask you something? Yes? On the day you arrived, you said you made a teeny tiny mistake while working at my family's house. Deadly allergic or just itchy allergic? I would say probably itchy allergic. I think he has some sense of humor. It's just very hidden beneath a very thick layer of non-humor. Tell me about that. What did you do at the Bollinger estate? In that moment, brief though it was, her disposition wavered. Fear? Terror? No, perhaps anger. I couldn't tell. Nevertheless, it was abundantly clear that that was a subject she had no interest in me breaching, and so she had borne her fangs. The smile she'd done now was visibly forced. It's nothing you need to concern yourself with, Master. I promise, it was an insignificant little thing. She couldn't say. Why couldn't she tell me? What had she done there? What did this woman know about that house? What did she know about me? What was concealed beneath that smile of hers? I am the master of this house, and you are a servant. And still you refuse to tell me. Like I said, it's nothing. There's no reason to bother you. With a mere servant's personal blunders, Master. What are you hiding? I'm not hiding anything. Then you should be able to tell me exactly what you did at the Bollinger estate. Like I said, tell me. Tell me! You won't tell me a thing about yourself, and yet you demand others to tell you about themselves? Here you are practically threatening me, demanding I tell you something I don't want to talk about, and yet you still haven't told me anything about the painting. So I was right. You do have something to hide. How many times must I repeat myself? We are not equals. I don't care if it's insignificant or something you don't want to talk about. I'm ordering you to tell me. A trifling blunder would not get someone sent to live with a cursed man in a house spoken of so unfavorably. Whatever she had done at the Bollinger estate, that had something to do with why she was here. If she truly hadn't done anything, then she had something to gain from this place, or possibly from me. And if that was the case, I had to get her to talk. To make me... Giselle's eyes were wide open. I recognized the look she was giving me. I knew very well what that gaze meant. You're an abomination. It was the same as them. Fear, contempt, revulsion, repulsion. The way she acted, the way she spoke, it was exactly the same. You're no different. I made her uncomfortable. I made her afraid. She thought I was unpleasant. She thought I was despicable. She thought I was an abomination. In a frenzy, I grabbed her by the shoulders. clamping down far more powerfully than I had meant to. Ow, stop! Her face, contorted in pain, morphed into someone else's. Who was I directing my anger at? Where was this rage being aimed? Who are you calling an abomination? What? Tell me, who? The black furor bubbling up from within me knew no end. The girl, she ridiculed me. She denied my identity with her gaze. I couldn't escape from that phantom, that reality. What are... I never called you a... No! Get away from me! Get your hands off me! Giselle's scream echoed in the entrance hall, rattling my eardrums. She frantically smacked my arms aside, and then I came back to my senses. She was standing a little ways away, breathing heavily, arms wrapped tight around her body, glowering at me, showing her opposition to my touching her. Enlightening? No. You just, you startled me, that's all. Some servant you are, telling your master not to touch you. Oh, right. I have I'm, allergic to people. It's a very unique condition, I hear. I mean, can you believe that? See, you know how some people get all red and itchy when they touch a dog or a cat? It's that, except for people, so... I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I beg your forgiveness. Why don't you speak your mind? What? This is what's going through your mind right now. I have nothing to apologize for. No, that's not... I can somewhat sympathize with your plight, being made to apologize even though you're hurting. I raised my hand against you first, after all. Then you forgive me? Sympathy does not equate to forgiveness. Now, you take care of the package. I'm headed back to my chambers. What is it? You're not going to make me leave after what I just did? No, I am not. For it would seem I can make you leave on your own whenever I so please. Besides, I had yet to learn what she had done. It would be exceedingly difficult to get the story from her own mouth, which left me with one option: to write a letter to my mother, as much as the very thought revolted me. Ooh, guys. This is so painful. Like, you can clearly see that they both going through some stuff. Like, she does not want to tell about her past. It's obviously something that haunts her, and he also obviously is going through some sort of PTSD, because she was not calling him an abomination, but someone in his past obviously did, and that is making him not think straight. So yeah, it's very very tragic, all this. Such a good misunderstanding writing again with this game. Is really good at telling about conflicting feelings and all that, like misunderstandings. Yeah, I think they are doing it very well. Several days had passed since the package arrived. The end of my 3rd week living in the mansion was drawing near. Michel wasn't getting any friendlier either. He continued to either snub or bluntly dismiss me whenever we crossed paths. I didn't understand why he acted that way around me, but there was little point in asking when he seemed to think there was little point in talking to me at all. Although at first I had been sure there was some way to get him to warm up to me. The more time I spent in the mansion, the more my willpower began to feel like it was at its breaking point. I could tell myself to stay positive until I was blue in the face, but it would only work for so long. The one pretty place in the whole house. I'm glad he hasn't covered it back up. Blue moonlight shone quietly through the stained glass window, vainly illuminated some of the room. I hadn't noticed until now, but the room with the stained glass window appeared to be modeled after a chapel. Rows of pews faced the window, below which sat what used to be a pulpit. There was very little left of it, though, and an awkward length of silver was mounted to the pulpit's front face. What was, I assumed, formerly a cross. Upon further reflection, rather than facing a window, the pews seemed to be pointing at the pulpit, or perhaps the cross hanging on it. I wasn't sure why there would be a chapel in a mansion, but I had no one to ask about it. For a house of this size, a statue of Christ or the Virgin Mary seems more appropriate. It's a very well-made chapel at any rate. I doubted Michel had built it for himself. There would be no reason for him to cover the window if that were the case. Nor had I ever seen him come to pray. He doesn't seem like one to believe in God. God. I'm not even sure if God really existed, then surely the world would be a much more pleasant, peaceful place. No unfair disparities in money or power. No senseless misfortune. I certainly wouldn't have found myself here either. But God was evidently quite fond of giving mankind trials, so he would probably tell me with a straight face that this was one too. Or perhaps we simply had a false impression of him, and he didn't actually give us anything. He merely sat back and watched from somewhere far, far away. It wasn't his job to bring peace to the world or ensure our laws were fair. That was all mankind's responsibility. What is God? What are angels? I have no idea. Maybe the Bible has answers. Why should I pray to someone so far away? How do I know my prayer is even getting there? But still, it's not like I have any other options. Don't you worry. It'll all work out, I promise. I already know where I'm going to work. It's a really prominent noble house, way out of reach of some small-time merchants like us. You never know, this could be my big break. Oh, I'm just kidding. Don't look so worried. It'll be just fine, honestly. I'll make enough money for us to get back onto our feet. Oh, for goodness sake, I can handle it. Leave everything to me. You just wait. I'll make our family into something you can be proud of. I'll be fine. Yeah, say bye to Mom for me. I probably won't be home for a while. What? You're afraid I'm going to make some careless mistake? I'm not that airheaded. I can be a refined and elegant young lady. Those nobles won't even know what to believe anymore. If you don't believe me, how about I give you a little taste? Ahem. How are you doing this fine morning, master? Your morning beverage is ready, prepared with the utmost of care. See, how about that? Not bad, huh? What? You really think it sounded forced? I was the daughter of a merchant who ran a shop on the capital's main street. My father had passed away in a plague, so it was just me, my mother, and my older sister. It would be a lie to say business was doing well. We struggled to squeak by day-to-day tax after taxes, but we couldn't just abandon the shop and leave the capital either. So we tried to make the best of what we were able to take in between the three of us. Then my sister fell in love with a moderately well-off aristocrat. Both my mom and I were supportive of her and her desire to marry. But the union fell apart because she was not suitable for him. Merchants were hardly the lowest class. What we lacked instead was wealth. We needed another source of money beyond what the shop took in. If only we had money, my sister could get married. If only we had money, my mom wouldn't have to work so hard. If only we had money. It was then that someone from the distinguished Bollinger estate approached me. He said they were in need of Abigails and would love to have me. He said that if I agreed to work for them, the Bollinger estate would take care of my family. Generally speaking, noble houses took Abigails from other, lower-ranked noble houses. It was unthinkable for someone of my status to receive such an offer. So I took it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance and accepted the offer. I just pray that nothing bad happens to my sister, and that Mom is getting enough money to live comfortably. That's all I can do. Their nobility, they have plenty of money. Enough to spare some. The light shining through the stained glass window began to grow murky, fading into blackness. It felt like a message from on high, that no, my prayers would not be answered. The bluish-white illumination shining down upon me disappeared as clouds blocked the moon. Oh, come on! You don't even want to look at a solid woman like me? Oh, for heaven's sake! I never asked to end up like this. The nobility, they have plenty of money. Enough to spare some. Oh, come on! You don't even want to look at a solid woman like me. Oh, for heaven's sake! I never asked to end up like this. Giselle was sitting at one of the pews in the room with the stained glass window. Just looking at her, you might have thought she was offering a prayer, but the words coming from her mouth were anything but prayerful. They were filled with resentment. They have plenty of money, a solid woman, and then I never asked to end up like this. So this is what beneath that facade. Most likely, money's what she's after. All I need to do now is confirm my suspicions with them. Just what awful secrets will I uncover? I gave Giselle, sitting in the pew with her head drooped, a cursory glance before leaving the chapel. I had somewhere else to be. The bitterly cold outside air felt like dozens of needles flowing into my lungs. It had been so long since I had stepped beyond the mansion's walls. A thick mist canopied the night sky, blocking out the moonlight. Naturally, the heavens did not rejoice at my leaving the house. It had been 10 years since I had seen the mansion from the outside, and it hadn't changed one bit. A gloomy scar upon the earth, shrouded in darkness. Hardly the kind of place someone would enthusiastically approach. That was a hard word to read. Nevertheless, it was better than that house. Yes? Who is it? Michelle. What? Michelle? Bollinger? Just one moment. I'll be right there. Come in. It's a humble abode, but make yourself at home. Wow, I must say, this is rather unexpected. Just one word and I would have been up there in a heartbeat. And how was I supposed to do that? I am, regrettably, fresh out of carrier pigeons. Right, yes. My apologies. This man, living in a small cottage not far from the mansion, had been hired by the Bollinger family. His job? To watch over me. That said, we never actually interacted. He was tasked with keeping track of whether I was still alive, and whether I remained in the mansion. The monthly package from my family was delivered to him, which he then passed on to me. It was insipidly convoluted, but it was indicative of how much they wanted to avoid anyone learning about me. Well then, what can I do for you? The manservant was visibly rattled. Afraid too. But not because of the difference in our social ranks. I had a pretty good idea what he had been told about me. He was afraid of me. Or more specifically, my curse. People fear that which they cannot comprehend. Not just children, adults as well. They fear demons, witches and curses, anything impure or not of this world. But I had long since gotten used to being viewed as such. It didn't sadden me, it didn't disappoint me, it didn't pain me. Some things were too foolish to concern yourself over. Though it certainly doesn't make me feel good either. I was, on some level, annoyed. That woman's appearance at the mansion had created ripples in my once tranquil life. So before I got into the real reason for my visit, I decided to take out a bit of my frustration. Raise your head, there's no need to be afraid. I don't know what you've been told, but I promise I don't bite. How rude of me. You're right, my sincerest apologies. Your job is to keep watch over me. If the mere sight of me has you trembling, what will you do if I try to run? I would have little trouble escaping. That would be quite unfortunate. What would I ever tell your mother? I'm not sure that would end well at all. You could lose everything you've been paid so far. In fact, you might be lucky to get out with your life. Surely your mother would not... You are aware of who you are dealing with, right? Michel, the cursed youngest son of the Bollinger family, who made a pact with the devil. I don't need a blade to take your life. You wouldn't even make it back to report anything. Have mercy, Lord Michel. Please do not leave this mansion. Please spare me. Only joking. What? I don't have the power to kill by way of curse. The man fell silent, but the look on his face said, You are cursed though, aren't you? Once someone's got an idea planted in their head, it's nigh impossible to get rid of it. I am so cursed that anyone can see it, that I need to be locked away in a dark mansion. I am here because I had a question for you, not to warn you that I plan to run away. A question? For me? Yes. Approximately 3 weeks ago, a black-haired woman came to the mansion. Tell me what you know about her. I was told there would be an Abigail coming, but that's all. I don't know anything else about her. I swear, that's all I know. I haven't been told anything else. I believe you. I never thought I would tell you anything. Right. You have been hired to observe me, but that was all it was, a hired hand. You wouldn't be privy to the Bollinger family's internal affairs. Take this. A letter. I need you to deliver it to my mother. You could have just left it in a box from this month's package, and I would have collected it when I dropped off the next one. I am in urgent need of information. Will you do this for me? Yes. Why, yes, absolutely. I'll fetch a delivery boy tomorrow morning. Much appreciated. Good night. You too. Do take care. Lord Michel? Yes? Is it true that you don't have... Would you like me to sew your mouth shut so you can never open it again? Not at all. My sincerest apologies, Lord Michel. That was horribly disrespectful. Good night. Cursed I most certainly am. My mother's response arrived just 10 days later. The delivery boy must have pushed his horse quite hard. It was almost exactly a month after Giselle had moved in. Yeah, exactly. If you know what he means. It's so not a thing you should ask. Ooh. I'm glad you noticed that too, Duder. Like, I'm boiling over here, like, Oof. And shortly thereafter, on a bone-chilling night, everything came crashing down. The rifts between us grew deeper, and the wall between us impossibly high, when I lay bare, the scars in her chest, and mercilessly plunged my knife into them. How did we get to this point? I hate everything. My spirits were getting darker and darker, like they were slowly sinking into a deep morass. I had been at the mansion for a month, and every day since felt twice as long as it should have. I had been optimistic at first. I'd even had a little hope that me and Michelle could get along together. But it hadn't taken long for that hope to be shattered, and the shield locked away inside me. We lived in the same house, but we never spoke anymore. On the few occasions we did cross paths, he just gave me a cold glare and nothing more. Scorn and suspicion in his eyes. Whenever he looked at me like that, it felt as though my throat was being constricted, like I was deep underwater and running out of air. Like my very presence in the world was a crime. I never could have imagined just how agonizing constant rejection was. I started despising others, despising myself, despising the world. Convinced there was no one who would set me free. I considered running away from everything, rather than live like this another day. But I would have done so long ago, if that were actually an option. If they found out I had fled, that I had acted outside their wishes, my mom and sister would pay. I had succeeded in allowing my sister to get married and my mom to live comfortably. I had given them happiness. I couldn't take that away from them again. Not after what I had to go through to do it. Oh no, cut that out. Getting way too depressing, Giselle. Pull yourself together. That's not who you are. Be positive. The negativity didn't only come from my interactions with Michelle, either. No, there seemed to be some kind of terrible presence within the mansion that twisted people's hearts. The mansion was, in fact, a bit of a local legend, which I had been informed about before being sent here. People claimed it was cursed, and that an evil witch had lived in it for many, many years. Michelle joked that he was a witch, but I didn't believe him. I'm not usually one to believe in magic or curses at all, but being here so long, I can't help but wonder. Anyway, things can't go on like this. If I was to remain in this house, the situation needed to improve. A lot. I was going to lose my mind if things kept up as they were. I was ready to give up once, but I'm going to try closing the distance between us again. If I could get him to open up even the tiniest bit, then maybe that would make living here a little easier. I wasn't going to try to make us best friends or anything. Just repair our relationship enough that being around each other wasn't torturous. I got my work cut out for me. How do I even begin that conversation? Heck, what is that conversation even going to be about? Maybe I should hold off. Do it another day. No. I made up my mind to do this, so I should get to it quickly. The longer I wait, the worse things are going to get. And eventually, there won't be any fixing anything. We need to talk. We need to be in the same room for more than 10 seconds, and we need to get to know each other. He needs to know that he's not the reason I have something to hide. Okay, let's do this. I made my way to Michelle's chambers, which she had told me to stay away from. My stride was slow and ponderous, but at the very least I did my best to keep some semblance of smile on my face. This is one time where I'd really like to have someone to give me a little nudge. That's very interesting. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but when we did this part in the fourth door, the maid said, "Oh, I would have loved to give the white-haired girl a little nudge. She was so cute." Like, I think that's a very cool thing that she, the real Giselle, really wanted to have someone to give her that nudge. And that was reflected in the fourth door as well. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay. Pardon, master? There's something I'd like to talk to you about. Master? I guess he's not here. The door wasn't locked, as was the rest of the house. His room was shrouded in darkness. The only light came from the candle in my hand. Master? Are you there, master? I guess I missed him. It's probably best if I don't stick around for long. He's already got a less than stellar impression on me. I don't want to imagine what will happen if he thinks I've been snooping through his room. Yeah, I should get out of here. I spun around on my heels, taking a step toward the door, when I caught sight of an object draped in a black sheet. I knew I had to get out of there as quickly as possible, but I was intrigued by that object. Something he kept hidden in a room I was forbidden to enter. Maybe it was a clue to discovering Michelle's secrets. I reached my hand down toward the object, knowing good and well I shouldn't. Was it because I wanted to learn more about him? Was it because I wanted to tear down the veil he hid behind? Or was it the whispers of the witch? Curiosity killed the cat? Yeah, definitely. She should just go. What do we have here? I pulled off the sheet, revealing a framed painting of what appeared to be a noblewoman with porcelain white skin. What stood out about her, though, was that the woman's hair was as pale as her skin. And then... What? I noticed something else. Wide gashes ravaged the canvas, damaging her face beyond repair. So guys, do you remember the painting from door 3 that Maria gave to the white-haired girl that she found in the cellar? This probably is it, right? I like that it all comes together like this. What the... I imagine it had once been a painting of a beautiful woman, but there was hardly a trace of that left. The only feeling it inspired anymore was a deep chill. This damage was not accidental, it was deliberate, angry, and the contempt emanating from within the frame was stifling. Thick, suffocating blackness seeped into me. Why would anyone... She was surely a most beautiful woman. Angelic even. A storm of questions assaulted me. Who was she? Why had her face been carved up? Why had the painting been covered? What had happened? Who could have... There's only one person who could have done this. Michelle. Why on earth? You saw it, didn't you? You saw the painting, didn't you? Ah! You entered my room without my permission, and you saw the painting, didn't you? Angelic, you say? There's nothing angelic about that damn woman. I scrambled to make some excuse, but nothing would come out of my mouth. All I could do was tremble. Oh. This CG is both so cool and so sad at the same time. Like, the misunderstandings are just piling up, and it's so good and so sad and Why did you enter my chambers? Mish... What were you looking for? Answer me. My mouth wouldn't move properly. I couldn't make my voice come out. It was like I wasn't even in my own body anymore. The wisps of air were drawn into my lungs, were expelled as hoarse gaps. My breaths were shallow and rapid. I was inhaling, but I wasn't getting any air. I was terrified. 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 Of his eyes, of his voice, of his feelings, of the knife he was holding up to me. Of the terrible past I was chained to. The man's voice, the man's very flesh, terrified me. What were you trying to find, and what were you planning to do with it? Answer me! Another thing you refuse to tell me then? No, I'm trying. Nothing's coming out of my mouth though. Everything's so bright, and I can't catch my breath. I can't breathe. That's fine though. You don't have to tell me. I have a pretty good idea. An idea? What? What do you mean? Money is what brought you to the Bollinger estate, and it's what brought you to me too. There are countless people who would love to see that house fall. A noble family fears nothing more than disrepute. You were, I presume, approached by someone scheming the Bollinger's downfall. No. And as it just so happens, the Bollingers have a very unfortunate secret, one they are quite desperate to keep under wraps. Me. Someone suspected that I might still be alive, so they sent you to dig up information about me. My very existence threatens to tear down that house. The cursed youngest son of the Bollinger family, Michel, who made a pact with the devil, who is supposed to be dead, but is very much alive. You sweet-talked your way into that house, and into information about me and my present situation, and you meant to trade that information for money. I bet whoever it was put quite a handsome price on it too. Or maybe the one plotting to ruin the Bollinger family is you? No, that's not true. Then enlighten me. Please, hear me out. I didn't know anything about you. I wasn't sniffing around or trying to bring you harm in any way. Then tell me, if that's not the reason you wormed your way into the Bollinger estate, and that's not what you're doing here, then tell me what is. I... Tell me why you came to this mansion. You want me to tell you about that? No way, that's asking way too much. Tell me. I swear, I haven't done anything to wrong you. I simply wanted to make our life together a little more comfortable. To bring some warmth to this frigid relationship we have. That's the only reason I wanted to find out more about you. I must assume I'm right then, Giselle. I must tell him he's wrong. I must tell him I mean no harm. But I can't say anything. A merchant's daughter became an Abigail at a noble house. Could you come up with a more obvious lie? Your father's the one who... Wait. How does he know that I'm from a merchant family? You look perplexed. I may be imprisoned in this house, not free to move about as I please, but I have my ways. I know everything. Everything? Then he knows about that too. Oh yes, I do know. Please. Don't. In your quest for money. Don't say it. You slept with my father. In that moment, Michel plunged his knife into my heart. He carved through my chest with those words, causing me to completely lose control of myself. In a panicked frenzy, and probably screaming all the way, I knocked the man aside, and ran and ran and ran. I could hear a clap of thunder in the distance. Oh, how I wished a bolt of lightning would come crashing down upon me. Maybe if God burned my tainted flesh with a divine thunderbolt, I would get rid of some of the filth. But the jagged streaks of light cascading across the dark clouds did not strike me, only creating restless grumbles in the sky. Why? I knew that if I fled that mansion, I would likely be causing trouble for my mom and sister, but I was helpless to stop myself. All I could do was run from all that threatened me with no regard for the consequences. Before long, small droplets of rain began falling, which soon grew heavy enough to penetrate the forest canopy and reach the ground where I stood. The downpour drowned out my tears and my cries. Because I had rushed from the mansion without even putting on a cloak, each cold, winter droplet stung bitterly against my flesh. But the bite of the rain was like a warm embrace compared to what I had been through before. Michelle had spoken the truth. As much as I wanted to deny it, to avert my eyes, reality was forever engraved in this body. No, no, I don't want to think about it. But I had no say in the matter. Get out of my head! Okay, guys, I think this is a good place to stop. That's enough darkness for one evening, I think. I hope you all are doing okay after this. It's quite different, this door, from the fourth door, which was very sweet and yeah, cute and all that. To see the truth is quite difficult, and also knowing all the things, like this is a second reading for me, or not even second, I have read this like I think 4 times before, so I know what's behind Michelle's behavior, I know what's behind Giselle's behavior, I know what kind of darkness they are carrying, I know the pain they are carrying, and it is rough. It's definitely rough. I mean, it's rough even without knowing, because without knowing, you see Michelle acting so horrible against Giselle, and I mean, we don't really know yet what she has been through, but it has been hinted quite heavily at what she has had to gone through at the Bollinger estate, and that's why I figured this is a good place to stop before we get too depressed here. Yeah, but even though this is a very sad and depressing story, there is light in the tunnel. Let me just say that for those of you who might feel scared to continue. Because this is not only a story about tragedy and darkness, it is also very much a story about overcoming trauma, and it's about hope as well, I feel like. So yeah, we just have to get through all the darkness first. Yeah. But I hope you enjoyed this, and as I said, I hope you're not too depressed about this, if you're sensitive to get that kind of thing. Personally, I like dark stories. I'm not really that sensitive about it. I like when it's sad and dark, especially when I know it's light in the tunnel later. But I know some people can be sensitive about these kind of things, and that tragic stories are not for everyone. But yeah, so the next stream will be on Wednesday, because of work I can't stream on Thursday, so the Bloodborne stream will be on Wednesday instead at 15:15 GMT. So if you're interested in seeing me getting my ass kicked from that dude in the church, the Bloody Crow, then you are very welcome to come and watch. I would appreciate it a lot. I'd love to have you guys hang with me. Yeah, so I hope you will have a nice evening, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!